Take-Two acquisition of Codemasters expected to go through in early 2021. Both publishers' board of directors approved the proposed deal, valuing Codemasters at £726 million. That is the piece of information we are talking about in today's video. Welcome to a brand new one, and yeah, this is pretty big news coming out this week for Codemasters. Obviously, the guys that make the official Formula 1 game, along with other racing games like, Dirt 5 is just coming out on the next-gen consoles and PS5 and Xbox Series X. You've got the other games of Grid in the past as well, all those old rally games, and even other sports games in the past, but obviously they're focused on racing as of late. And obviously, as it pertains to this channel and me, it's the F1 game, obviously, and this is a big deal. Take-Two are looking, or are now set to acquire the entirety of Codemasters in early 2021, next year, before F1 2021, the game releases, it would seem like. And so we're going to talk about this today because this is pretty big news, and there's a lot of debate in the community I saw on Twitter so far about whether this is a good thing or a bad thing for F1 fans, for the F1 game, and maybe also just generally Codemasters as a whole. What's going to happen with their games in general. So we're going to kind of go through that. We're going to go through the article and see what that says about what the deal's about, and then I'll kind of give my thoughts of what I feel like this will mean for the future of the F1 franchise, because this is big news. This could change the F1 game and any other racing games Codemasters make by quite a lot, so this is worth talking about. But before we get into the rest of the video, just FYI guys, if you ever wanted to see what it would look like if myself and Lando Norris teamed up against FNG and Super GT and took on a blindfolded F1 2020 challenge, well, think no more. It's been uploaded to the Quadrant YouTube channel. Of course, you guys may know if you follow me over on socials, or you did see the kind of last Reddit video we did, or have seen any of the live streams, or just any of the news from Lando Norris as of late. We have launched a brand new content kind of esports team called Quadrant, and that video has been uploaded today. Blindfolded F1 2020 challenge. There'll be a link in the top line of the description. Go check it out and see how myself and Lando do up against FNG and Super GT. But let's get into the topic of the video. So I've got the article on this side, so that's why I'm going to be looking over here all the time to read the article, basically. We're going to go through it piece by piece and kind of give my 2 cents of where I think this, what this could mean for the entire F1 franchise and also Cody's as a whole, because obviously there's other racing titles involved. So Take-Two Interactive is expected to acquire Codemasters in the first quarter of next year. So first quarter being the first 3 months of the year. So it's going to be well before F1 2021 comes out, the game, that is. That is interesting. That probably means that F1 2021 will not change drastically. We won't see the real impact of this, I don't think, until the next game, the next cycle for F1 2022, which is pretty promising, exciting in itself, because of course that year, that game is going to be based off obviously the massive regulation change we get in real life F1. So that game as a whole anyway is going to be a huge game for those new regulations, let alone the first game really where Take-Two are properly, maybe backing Codemasters and whatnot. So I expect next year's F1 game to be, unchanged by this. Maybe it'll change a little bit branding wise. Maybe the marketing might change. I'll get into that a little bit later, but I doubt the development will change that much, because they're already probably right in the middle of making the foundations of that next year's F1 game. So I don't think that's going to change a lot, especially because the acquisition is only happening next year in the first quarter. But that's according to notes to investors, which reveal the board members for each company have reached an agreement over the terms of Take-Two's offer. So if you don't know who Take-Two are, then where have you been? Have you been living under a rock? You clearly maybe don't know your gaming world very well, because Take-Two are the same people that own 2K Games, which make all the kind of NBA sports games, a load of other sports games. I think they recently, acquired a golf studio as well, so they published the PGA game, potentially, I think it is. Don't quote me on that, but I know they definitely do the NBA 2K game. And then also, another company they own is Rockstar Games, the people who make GTA 5, Grand Theft Auto, who will be making the next Grand Theft Auto whenever that comes out. But it's pretty cool to know that Codemasters are going to be under the same umbrella as Rockstar Games, because Rockstar Games, they're one of the best developers out there. They created one of the biggest games in history with Grand Theft Auto. That franchise is massive. So to know that Codemasters will be under that umbrella is hugely exciting initially, because I when I saw this news, I thought straight away, oh, is that going to mean that finally Codemasters have like a load of backing, a load of budget, resources, potentially new employees, just resources of, equipment or whatever, office space, whatever they need to make an even better F1 game, or other racing games, of course, but I'm going to mainly focus on F1 today, being that's obviously the focus of my channel. But that was the initial thought of, that's really exciting to know that the same company that is kind of umbrella, taking care of the different publishers and developers that make NBA 2K and Grand Theft Auto, they're going to be under that umbrella. It's not going to be the same developers, it's just under the same umbrella, the same kind of management structure. So obviously from the top, Take-Two might funnel resources down to, 2K Games, you've got Rockstar Games, and now in next year it will be Codemasters. In that kind of way, I think, and I would hope that Take-Two, this is just kind of a case of adding Codemasters to their portfolio and just giving them resources to make better games, make, improved games, and therefore make even more profit. And for them, that's beneficial, rather than coming in and changing a load of things. Because if it became a situation where, I don't know, like they change the entire management structure of Codemasters to kind of merge with 2K, because 2K is their brand for sports games, basically. So they've already got NBA 2K, and I've seen some people on Twitter already kind of say, is F1 now going to be F1 2K21 next year? Marketing-wise, I could very much see them, just for marketing purposes, actually changing that, just to obviously get the branding of 2K out there a little bit more, but maybe behind the scenes, it's still kind of 2K/Codemasters, or they don't, and they leave it alone, or they come in and change everything. That's the worry, and that's why a lot of people, when I first tweeted about it, were very skeptical about it. And also those of you who have played NBA 2K, I've never played it, I've just seen bits of it. The worrisome thing is that NBA 2K is ridden with microtransactions, and that's the major worry, is that they're going to come in, change the management so much, change the way the game works to make it even more profitable, i.e. add a load of microtransactions, that it's going to ruin the game experience maybe going forward. This is what the kind of two heads of Take-Two and Codemasters had to say about the deal, that maybe gives us an inkling of what this is going to mean for Codemasters, or what's going to mean for those games. Take-Two believes the combination of the two companies will be a highly complementary fit and creates a global leader in interactive entertainment. We are exceedingly pleased to announce this recommended transaction with the board of Codemasters. Codemasters has a renowned history of creating some of our industry's most beloved and commercially successful racing franchises, and we believe their offerings will be highly complementary to our sports portfolio and enhance further our organization's long-term growth. So that wording at the end is interesting. Complementary, highly complementary to our sports portfolio. That is exactly the words I use, of adding Codemasters, just adding these games that Codemasters make to their portfolio of games. Not necessarily coming in and changing things. Honestly, it just sounds like maybe, and maybe I'm being really hopeful, and that's just the way I am. I'm a very positive person. I love thinking positively about, things going forward, so I'm very hopeful that that's the case. If it's just going to be a case of, right, we like what Codemasters are doing, but they're kind of a smaller UK-based company compared to how large 2K is, owning Rockstar Games, for goodness sake. But, we like what they're doing. They're, obviously a leader in the racing scene, so let's just buy them up to add that to our portfolio. So in terms of when people look at us and our company, what we're developing, we've got a whole portfolio of NBA, golf, F1, dirt rally, and all these other racing games. So it just adds that plethora of sports titles they've got. It sounds like that's what he's saying. Whether it's a case of, once they acquire Codemasters, they think, how can we make them even more profitable? And they come in and trying to change some things and recommend putting in like microtransactions or whatever. I don't know. We're going to have to see. Codemasters chairman said, with a leading position in sports gaming, the board of Codemasters firmly believes the company will benefit from Take-Two's broad capabilities. That's interesting, because that's kind of on the same line of, capabilities. Take-Two's broad capabilities. Maybe adding value to Codemasters. Maybe adding resources, budget to them to help them out, propel them even further. And literally, I actually said the word, which will propel the long-term success of Codemasters. In recommending this offer to shareholders, the board of Codemasters believes in the best interest of all stakeholders in the company. So the CEO of Codemasters thinks it's a good idea, and he's talking in a way where it seems like they're still very much going to have ownership of what they're doing. I think I read in a different article that the kind of higher-ups will be staying on at Codemasters, so it's not a case of chop and change, get some like American like Take-Two's in, or wherever the hell other kind of other HQs of Take-Two are based, getting like those guys, you know, shipped out to the UK and based in the UK to kind of take over Codemasters. The same people will still be running it at the top, it seems. Whether the underneath that, the top level, that's the top level, whether the rest of it all stays exactly the same, who knows? I suspect, as many things, I suspect, as always with acquisitions, there are going to be some changes. There's no way there's not going to be any sort of change. There will be noticeable change with the team potentially. Whether that means a huge change for the game development, we don't know. I think next year's game is still safely in the hands of the team right now that are going to develop it. That's not going to change. But for the next year, 2022, that's going to be huge now, because will we see F1 2K22? Will we just see F1 2022 by Codemasters, just with more resources, budget? That's what I'm hopeful for, but as I said, so many people are worried, because those of you who have played NBA, you know, it's a very slippery slope to kind of go down. It's not really a great game experience, apparently, when you play that in terms of microtransactions involved. What I will say is, though, I'm excited, again, going back to the kind of whole resource and budget thing, away from the gameplay and the transactions in NBA 2K, I've seen trailers of NBA 2K from the current gen to next gen, PS5 and Xbox Series X. And out of all the sports games, NBA 2K21 genuinely looks like the best step up for a sports game from that current gen to next gen. Like, the trailer they put out for the experience on PS5 and Xbox Series X is insane. The graphics, the ray tracing, the kind of lighting system that we're going to get on next gen with NBA compared to the kind of previous gen version of the same game, basically, because they brought out two versions for PS4, PS5, and vice versa, Xbox One and Xbox Series X. The difference is insane from what I've seen in the trailers. So if it's going to be a case of F1 can make that step up onto next gen, that'll be mega. It's going to be really weird, because technically I would hope and believe that 2021, that game, is going to be on next gen, PS5 and Xbox Series X. So you're going to have kind of one game where maybe you don't have the budget behind to see that massive graphics shift, potentially. I don't know. Obviously, Codemasters have been developing their shift to next gen away from even Take-Two acquiring them. So I'll be curious to see what that looks like anyway next year. But then, if there's going to be a huge shift graphically and what they can do, will the engine change? What's going to change onto 2022? That's going to be a massive question mark, and it's exciting, but also could be slightly unnervy times in terms of what that means for the actual game, how much they get involved. So that's my 2 cents on the matter, and bringing you that news of that acquisition. So you may not know if you don't, kind of follow the news on Twitter or whatever, on Instagram or wherever. If you haven't seen it, there you go. The F1 game company is going to be changing. It will change in some kind of way. There's definitely no way it won't change, but how? No one knows. Let me know what you guys think. Do you reckon it's going to be a case of just adding budget and resource to Codemasters from the wording of those interviews? That's my take on the news, and just bringing you that news today. So as I said, let me know what you think of all that in the comments below. Do you think it'd be a good thing or a bad thing? And like I said, if you wanted to see myself and Lando Norris take on F&G and Super GT in the F1 2020 Blindfolded Challenge, then check out Quadrant's video today. Link in the description. But guys, if you did enjoy this video, then hit that like button. Let me know what you thought in the comments below. Like I said, if you're new around here, then do get subscribed for weekly Formula 1 content, and I'll see you guys next time.